Alright, so today I want to talk about pricing of a 66 Mustang. 65, 66 pricing, pretty similar. Cars are pretty similar, really not a lot of difference in pricing that I've seen. Basically identical cars, really only some cosmetic differences, so pricing is the same. And I know pricing is a subject near and dear to everyone's heart. You're either buying a car, you want to make sure you're getting a good buy. If you're selling it, you want to make sure you're getting your money's worth out of it. So, taking out the cars that have been severely resto-modded, because those become one-offs in their own category, almost. And then how do we establish like baseline pricing to compare against? So really, from my baseline, I'm talking about a clean car. You know, it doesn't have rusted floor pans. It doesn't have rusted frame rails. The shock towers are fine. There's no really rust poking through. There might be a little bit of scale underneath on the underbody. I'm not worried about that so much. I'm talking about rusted through where you have to replace panels. So our baseline car is clean, fairly original looking, original condition, and from that we're going to add modifications to it, add features, add upgrades to establish pricing. And then my baseline, so from what I'm seeing on coupes, baseline coupes, and we're talking again V8s, primarily stick shift cars, 3-speed, 4-speeds, 5-speed if it's been modded. I'll look at some automatics as well, but I've been primarily looking at the manual transmission cars. So that's going to be the baseline. So 20 grand on a coupe is a baseline to start from. We can subtract from that based on condition, or if it's missing certain things. You know, if it's basically interior is really ratted out, you know, obviously we'll subtract from that. But that's a good baseline to start on the coupe. Convertibles, really about $30,000, maybe $35,000. But really a good, clean convertible, standard interior, not a GT, you know, 2-barrel carb engine. Really, you're going to start at about $30,000. Fastbacks are going to go a little higher. $40,000, I'm going to say, is the starting point for there, and then up from there. So again, condition impacts, engine modifications have a price impact, depending on how much engine modification has been done, obviously. The GT package is a price upgrade, and then the pony interior is a price upgrade. And then other smaller options that have been added on, you know, does it have a rally pack, does it have a console? I'm not seeing those affecting the price quite as much. You know, Hurst shifters for the manual transmission cars. I'm not seeing those really having a big impact on price. Obviously, if you're buying and you want to add those modifications, it's going to cost money out of your pocket. But from the sale price, I'm not seeing big price differences there. So let's get in and take a look at some cars and see how that price point works out. And then as an added bonus, I've got the Kissimmee auction coming up for Mecum over starting next weekend and through a following week. So I'm going to put my theories to work, and I've already got my list of cars that are coming up for sale there, and I'll take a look and see how those compare out, and hopefully I can even share some of those with you. So I've got the results of the Kissimmee Mecum auction from 2021, January of 2021. And I've got manual transmission Mustang 64.5 to 66. And I'll slide over this spreadsheet. There are 19 manual transmission cars that went across the blocks, and wild range of prices. The ones in yellow are the convertibles that we're going to take a look at. The ones in green are coupes that we're going to take a look at. And the ones highlighted in the red are the fastbacks we're going to take a look at. Now there's a number of fastbacks that have been resto-modded, and I want to say massively restored. We're not going to look at those. Prices in those go into the stratospheric range. You can see a couple, you know, 89.1, 90,000, 88,000. So those really aren't what we're taking a look at. But we're going to take a look at the coupes and convertibles and a couple of fastbacks that are a bit more standard cars. A few options, but you know, they're not wildly modified. And so we'll use those as our baseline prices. Then we'll go through and look at the cars individually, and then I'll recap once we're done. And okay, so on to the auction. Let's look at some cars and prices. So I'm going to skip over these really high-end fastbacks because that's certainly out of the realm that we're talking about. And first I'm going to look at this nice looking 66 GT convertible. High bid $49,000, so it did not sell at this price. Very clean looking car. And again, most of these cars going through the auction blocks, you know, at the high-end auctions are pretty well cleaned up. They've been well taken care of. They're presented nicely because the sellers are trying to get his maximum dollar for it. So we've got a nice pony interior. You can see it's got the aftermarket, or it could be the factory AC. We'll see it's got an aftermarket compressor in it. Rally pack, nice addition. Console, nice addition. You'll notice it does not have the wood grain inserts here on the console. So probably this isn't console, it's been aftermarket. It's a console that's been bought in the aftermarket and added to the car. Still a nice touch. We look at the engine bay, pretty standard engine compartment. It still has the factory cast iron intake manifold. No big engine options. You can see the aftermarket AC compressor, which is a definite improvement. Export brace, Monte Carlo bar, and it looks to me like it's still got the factory Autolite carburetor in there. So a basically standard, if there is such a thing, a standard Mustang GT convertible with a pony interior. If we look at a base price of $30,000 for the convertibles, and that might be a little on the low side, I'm thinking $35,000, but we'll look at one next. That base is that $30,000 price. So if we look at that $30,000 price, we've got an A code, we've got a GT, we've got a pony interior, we've got AC, rally pack, console. Really, it's got all the goodies. Styled steel wheels. And it did not sell at $49,000, so $20,000 above that baseline convertible price, and we have a no sale. The next one is this 66 convertible. Again, another GT car in an A code, really clean looking, same color, different interior. And this one is labeled as a rotisserie restoration, so it basically went down to bare metal and rebuilt all the way up, so it's basically a brand new car. Factory cast iron manifold in the engine. We can see it's got, these are the hypo style valve covers. The stock ones are a painted color. But again, in that light Ford blue, we can see it's got cast iron exhaust manifolds. It looks like it's the Autolite carburetor. Can't quite tell for sure. Standard distributor. We've got strut tower braces. That's really the only option I'm seeing on this car. The pony interior is very clean. We've got the rally pack again. Factory shifter. We can see the wood grain inserts on the console. No AC on this car, and yet $60,000 price. So basically they're paying premium for that condition, which is a like new car. So doubling that base price of $30,000. My next selection, right next to it, it's a 64.5 convertible with a removable hardtop. So this was an option that you could get, was a hardtop that you can actually lift on and off the car. Nice styled steel wheels. It's a base vehicle. It's not a GT. A standard interior. Really no other options. There's no rally pack. There's no console. It's just a standard clean car. You can see a few options added in the engine compartment. We've got an aluminum intake. We've got valve covers and headers. My notes tell me it's a 260. But yet with the aluminum intake, so we're going to get a bit more performance out of it. You can still see that generator right there. We're going to get some extra performance out of it. So basically a stock convertible with, I would think, a desirable hardtop option and a couple of engine upgrades, and it's selling right at that $30,000 price, $30,800. So that really kind of substantiates that baseline price for a straight car. So my next selection, here we have a 64.5 coupe. I know it says a 65 here, but in the details it says 64.5. Pretty straight car, nothing fancy about it. Standard interior, it's got a rally pack. You can see the 65 version of the rally pack has the sweep tachometer. The 66 has the round that matches the round dash. I believe it's got a Hurst shifter added on. Engine compartment is fairly straightforward. Here you can see the painted valve covers. Somebody's painted the engine the hypo black instead of that light blue, but it hasn't really changed anything. Showing it is, yep, a 4-barrel. It's a D code, which is the early version of the 289 4-barrel. And other than that, a pretty standard standard Mustang. Everything else there, you can see the generator, standard engine. Obviously it's still a 289, styled steel wheels, and we're taking from our $20,000 base price for a coupe, really adding $8,600. Couple of engine upgrades, which had maybe a little bit, a grand or two at the most, and then the rally pack and the Hurst shifter. I'm sorry, that is a standard shifter, excuse me. So really just the condition giving us that price with an $8,600 cost bump upwards. Next, I'm going to take a look at this fastback. What's intriguing about this fastback is it's sold at $49,500, and it has some interesting options. It's not a GT. It is not a pony interior. However, it's got this custom interior, and so you can see this pony style door trim panel, but very much aftermarket. It's got a 6-gauge instrument cluster, speedometer and tachometer next to each other, centered. It's got this heavily padded dash, the Shelby style steering wheel, these high back buckets, and we can see these AC vents on the side, not in the standard unit under the dash. And now for the really kicker part, it's got this killer 408 cubic inch small block in here, and you can see the AC compressor aftermarket here. This thing is built. I couldn't tell you the horsepower, but let's say we're putting out about 400 horsepower out of this thing. That's a lot of performance in a fastback. And so if we look at our fastback base price of $40,000, we're really only paying $9,500 extra to get one killer engine. And my notes don't tell me this, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few other things in here to make it a little spicier. Oh, I've got coilovers, excuse me, I missed those. Roll bar, a Hurst shifter, the aluminum radiator, the custom wheels. So I think a pretty good buy at that price based on all the add-ons that you've got and the performance that you'll get over a standard fastback. But again, as you get into these Restomod type cars, depending on how they're done, the market can get pretty thin. A stock car is going to be pretty clean and it's going to pull your best money. Something that's concourse restoration. And then you get the high-end Restomods for the fastbacks, and those are seeing some big money too. So this is a pretty clean coupe, 64.5 again actually. I know it's saying 65 up here, but it's a 64.5. It's got a 4-barrel engine. It's actually got a 375 horsepower engine, which we'll see in a minute. 4-wheel disc brakes have been added to it. It's got aluminum drive shaft. It's got the 6-gauge dash again. Otherwise, a pretty stock interior. I think that's the Hurst shifter in there. You can see it's got these extra wide seat belts. Normally this looks like what you get in a 4-point or a 5-point harness, but obviously there's no roll bar and high backs to bring the shoulder straps down. It's got an aftermarket wheel. This is not the pony wheel. You can see there's no horn blow here. So this is an aftermarket wheel. It's got a bigger diameter on the outer periphery of it. Pretty clean car though. And a lot of performance for that extra $6,000 over the base price. And there we go. So you can see we've got headers, we've got aluminum heads, aluminum intake, MSD ignition. So the owners put some serious money into this, and I'm guessing it's not a stock engine, that we've probably got a crate motor here or a custom built motor. And it says a quick fuel carb, a brand I'm not familiar with, but it's certainly been added to. Billet mounts for the shocks here. You can see it's got an aftermarket master cylinder, and that is an export brace. So in the aluminum radiator. So really for $6,000 you're getting a heck of a lot of performance stuffed into this cute little coupe. and certainly a great sleeper. You go down the street with this, nobody's going to expect it, and then next thing you know, you're blowing their doors off. So all in all, a pretty nice car for that $26,000. All right, the next one is another fastback, and the second fastback, and the second of two fastbacks we're going to look at that are reasonably priced. $49,500. This is an A code vehicle with a 3-speed manual transmission. It is a GT car that does not have the pony interior. It's just a standard interior. Pretty straightforward car. You know, and this is really, in some ways, well, certainly for the seller, a better value, you know, a better profit than the one that we just saw that was heavily modified. So same price, there's been very little done to it. We still can see, you know, the cast iron heads, cast iron intake, still got the stock Autolite carburetor. It's got the hypo style valve covers, the chrome plated, you know, the stamped steel valve covers. Looks nice, but there's nothing extra special about it. It's just a really nice, clean, straightforward fastback selling at $49,500. So we take that base price of $40,000, we add $5,000 for the GT, maybe another $5,000 for that condition. It gets us right to, and you know, a couple grand for the A code, but it puts us right at that price at $49,500 price, and that's really a good bellwether for those fastbacks, what our baseline is. Okay, I've got two left I want to take a look at here. This K99 and then the K79. Now I'll make a comment here first on this. This is a 6-cylinder convertible with a pony interior, gorgeous pony interior, great condition. Sale price $27,500. So if you have a base price of $30,000 for the convertible, you know, add on $5,000 for a pony interior, you're losing $7,500 for a 6-cylinder engine over the V8. They don't have a picture of that. But otherwise, a very clean car. It's got the styled steel wheels. So really a nice looking car, but what a difference that engine makes. Okay, so more details on this one. $40,000 for a pretty standard convertible. Does not have a pony interior, does not have the GT package. It is a simple A code 4-speed. It's got the console, no rally pack, no AC. It's just a 65 convertible. Actually, it didn't sell at the high bid of $40,000. So we take that $30,000 price. What makes it worth that somebody even bid another $10,000 for it? Well, this car only has 30,000 miles on it. And so that makes it a pretty exceptional car. Now, assuming it's a true 30,000 and not a rolled over 130,000, 40,000 would be a low price because that car is going to be in pretty pristine shape for that kind of price, or that kind of mileage. Pretty standard engine compartment. There you can see the factory valve covers and the factory air cleaner, all bone stock. And it's, look at that vacuum advance. It's still got the loop in it in a metal tube. It's not rubber like most guys add on. As time goes by, it gets beat up a bit. Look at the condition of that windshield washer bag and the hoses and the pump. So really, $40,000 adds a $10,000 premium for the 30,000 miles for a 4-speed convertible. I can see why it didn't sell. The seller probably thought it was worth a lot more than that. I'm surprised nobody bid higher, to be honest, for a car with that little mileage. Especially when we look at this one. Now this is a GT A code with the pony interior. 57.2. We've got the console with the wood grain, correct wood grain, rally pack, and you can see the sweep tachometer matching the sweep speedometer. It's in a slightly different color, a light green, with that dark that nice forest green carpet to go with that green exterior. So an interesting color combination. Engine has got a few upgrades. Engine compartment. There's our export brace. Pardon me. The Monte Carlo bar. You can see we've got an aftermarket AC compressor, which is a big improvement over the factory. Big clunkers that they used to have, cast iron manifold, so it's got valve covers. It's got the the nice Mustang air cleaner, the Shelby style. But other than that, I'm betting it's a stock engine underneath. They've just added the mod for the different air conditioning compressor. Looks like we've got power brakes, but a whole lot that brings that price up to $57,200. So the previous one, $40,000, didn't sell. We've got a $17,000 price increase on this one for the pony interior, the air conditioning, and the GT package. And then if we look at that first one that we had talked about right here, we did sell at $49,000. So this one was the GT pony interior, A code 4-speed. So basically it adds the GT package plus the pony interior over the one that didn't sell for $40,000. So base, I'm saying a baseline $5,000 for the GT, $5,000 for the pony, and an A code might be a little bit more than that, but rough rule of thumb. We can see why this one didn't sell, especially compared to this one. So roughly the same cars. This one sells at $57,200. This one high bids at $49,000 and didn't sell. So you can get an idea of that price there. Okay, the last thing I want to do is bring over my spreadsheet again. And this one I've grouped by body style. So here we've got all the convertibles. The yellow ones we looked at. And so these are just all the V8 cars. The 64.5 that sold at $30,800. We've got a K code which we didn't look at. It sold for $63,250. I'm kind of throwing out the K code option at about $10,000, at least as a starting point to discuss. We looked at this one, rotisserie restoration. That's the second one we looked at, $60,000. We just looked at that last one, $57,200. So we're seeing the high end and then everything in between. We didn't look at this one, but again, it was just so similar to this one that I didn't see the need for that. Difference being a standard interior versus a pony and not a GT, but yet still pulled strong money with the condition. We look at the coupes, great values in the coupes. Looking at here's a built 64.5 for $26,000. Here's another one, pretty solid, almost an original at $28,600. And here's another heavily modified one with a build 302, which we didn't look at. This one is really a Restomod that sold for $33,000. The big money is in the fastbacks. We can see them going all the way up to $90,000. But we looked at this red one, 408 cubic inch engine, sold $49,500, and that nice white fastback, same price, $49,500. So it begs the question, why go to all this work to put all that money into an engine? It doesn't pull the price. As a stock, clean, original car did, the same price, so why put all that extra into it? Great buy for the buyer, not so good for the guy that did all that work to it. And then we're seeing a Roush 402 at $52,800, and then it jumps all the way up into the 70s and then the 80s for some pretty sophisticated cars. Now these, you can see, I've got all my notes in here of everything that's been added. Those are certainly, I want to say, one-off specialty cars. So again, coupes, $20,000 base price. Convertibles, $30,000, maybe $35,000 base price. Fastbacks, $40,000, maybe a $45,000 base price. To those prices, add $5,000 for pony interior, $5,000 for a GT. You can add a little bit extra for your air conditioning and other accoutrements. The rally pack, the console, her shifter, engine modifications. And certainly engine power upgrades are adding some money. We're seeing the two base coupes at here's one at $6,000. Here's one for $13,000 above our baseline price. And so that gave you some idea. And I should point out that this one didn't sell. This is the one with the red engine. No, I'm sorry. This had the built engine. It didn't sell at $26,000, which is no surprise. That guy's got probably $15,000 into that powertrain building it. is my guess. You know, $5,000 if it's a crate engine, $6,000 plus the, you know, headers and drive shaft. Excuse me, headers and intake manifold and carburetor, and whatever else he did to it. He did do an aluminum drive shaft, the dash, you name it. Anyway, you get the idea. So there's our kind of our baselines on prices. The next video, I'm going to get into looking at some actual cars for sale. And then I also want to take a look at cars that are upcoming in the Kissimmee auction. I've already compiled the list of manual and automatic cars coming up for sale on Kissimmee 2022. Kind of take a look at these pricing theories and see how they hold up this year. And well, when all is said and done, I'll have another video covering that one too. So thanks for listening, and stay tuned to the next video.